You just heard the president say he did not set a red line. The world did, and his credibility is not on the line. The world's is. Do you buy that?
Not really. I give the president credit today for taking a high ground and trying to shame the rest of the world into taking action. He did that effectively. But when it comes to this argument about a red line, there's a real difference. International treaties do say you cannot use chemical weapons, but if you then violate those treaties, those treaties are silent about military action. In effect, what the world says is if you violate an international treaty, you then go to the UN, and that's where you decide on military action. What the president did, and why he got this red line business has gotten him in trouble, is in the context of saying whether he was going to use military action or not to intervene in Syria, he said, if they cross this line, I will recalibrate my position. He sent a clear message that if they crossed this line, he would use military action. That's very different from the treaties.
Right.
And it's put his credibility on the line, and as commander-in-chief, it's put the credibility of the United States on the line, and that's really important, not just in Syria, but in Iran.
And Mr. Speaker, the fact that the president also says Congress set its own red line on chemical weapons use, how do you respond to that?
Well, I think Dave Gergen just disposed of it. The fact is, the treaty doesn't require military action. If you go back to the 1980s, Saddam was regularly in the middle of using poison gas, both against his own people and in the Iran-Iraq war. You go back a few years earlier, President Nasser of Egypt used poison gas in Yemen. Nobody said that was a moral case for us. You know, start with the fact 100,000 people have been killed in Syria. A lot of children have been killed in Syria. This is pretty horrifying stuff. But is it stuff which justifies the United States engaging in, frankly, a limited, confused strike against a dictatorship which is not going to be very affected by a limited strike? And if Assad is still sitting there, I'd vote no, but I'd also say to you, if Assad is still sitting there after these strikes, he's going to be in a position to say, the United States didn't do much to affect me, I'm still in charge, and then what do we do?
Fareed, what about that? I mean, you see the president struggling clearly with two different paths here.
I think that is, I mean, Newt has actually highlighted the great danger, which is when you have a limited strike of this nature, you almost yield the initiative to the other side, because if they survive that strike, and if Assad is able to continue to do what he's doing, maybe he doesn't use chemical weapons again, you haven't really won, because you have inched your way into this civil war. You've taken a side, and you're not winning. And the United States can't put its credibility on the line and then say, that's it, we did our 3 days of strikes. After this, what happens doesn't matter, especially not when the Secretary of State has compared this to Munich. The president has compared it to the Holocaust now in Sweden. When, you know, in order to sell this limited strike, they are using language that has so inflated the strikes and dramatized it that you kind of wonder, won't the action have to catch up with this?
Well, let's talk about this language, because the administration is saying, I don't believe this. I mean, Secretary Kerry said, I don't believe we're going to war. I just don't believe that. I mean, aren't we going to war?
Well, of course we're going to war. When you engage, you know, assuming that this is going to be several days of dozens and dozens of cruise missile strikes, by any definition of the word, you're going to war. And by the way, on the other hand, he says this is your Munich moment, meaning this is your chance to stop aggression by using military action. So you can't have it both ways, in a sense. You know, it's either so dramatic that we have to go to war to stop this naked aggression, or, you know, the flagrant violation of international law, or it's a teeny military action that doesn't even qualify.
Charles,
as
last night on this program, you were saying how ambivalent you are, deeply ambivalent. Did you hear anything today that changed your mind one way or the other?
No, and I think that what I heard today actually muddied the waters even more. I mean, this idea of constantly talking about in language that says, I believe things. I think one of the most striking lines to me, particularly as a writer, is the line the president used. We believe very strongly, with high confidence, that in fact chemical weapons were used, but that Mr. Assad was the source. Either it's a fact or it's not a fact. Either you know it or you don't know it. This idea of constantly talking about what we believe, we have it with high confidence, and that may be as much as they can give with the intelligence they have. However, as the public receiving this, it sounds very squishy. And on the back end of it, what assures us that if you slap a tiger that you don't plan to kill, that it will retreat and not advance? If you go in and you attack Assad and you do not take him out, what assures us that he will not retaliate at some point?